What's your favorite scary movie?
They float, Georgie. They float.
Scream.
I want to play a game.
You will be good to him, won't you?
Baby.
Don't fall asleep.
Scream.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
I see dead people.
Here's Johnny.
Welcome to Scream Baby Scream. I am your host, Kenzie, and in this episode of Scream Baby Scream, I will be visiting the 2016 horror film, The Boy. According to IMDb, The Boy is about, quote, an American nanny is shocked that her new English family's boy is actually a life-size doll. After she violates a list of strict rules, disturbing events make her believe that the doll is really alive. The movie stars The Walking Dead's Lauren Cohan as Greta Evans and Rupert Evans as Malcolm, the grocery boy.
So what's the family like?
Well, they're nice, you know. They're, very generous. As good a people as you'll ever hope to meet.
And the son? Brahms?
Brahms. He's, I'm not sure quite how to explain it, really.
Now, Rotten Tomatoes gave The Boy only a 28%, which is extremely low. Rotten Tomatoes doesn't have a critics' consensus on the movie yet, but one of the top critics, LA Weekly's Michael Nordine, said, quote, there's only so much she can do once the movie around her devolves into the usual barrage of jump scares, but Cohen maintains her composure even as Greta loses hers.
You will be good to him, won't you?
Christian Holub, a movie critic from Entertainment Weekly, said, quote, it aims to set itself squarely in the fictional canon of Chucky and its brethren, but it ends up trying to do so much that it forgets to scare us, end quote. These were not glowing reviews for the movie, so I decided to take matters into my own hands and see if it was better than what the critics thought.
I'm so sorry.
As I always do, I question whether or not you should see The Boy. I think you should. Despite the critics' nasty reviews, The Boy has so much more to offer than just a typical possessed doll movie. Lauren Cohan is the main star, and I mean, where would you go wrong with having Lauren Cohan as your main character? I mean, she's Maggie in The Walking Dead, for Pete's sake. She's amazing. The movie basically just revolves mostly around her and her interactions with this doll. And so most of the movie is just her basically by herself because the doll doesn't really, you don't ever see it moving or anything. She's just acting by herself, and to act by yourself is a very, very, very difficult thing to do because you don't have anybody to play off of. I personally have acted before, and monologues and stuff like that are extremely hard to do just for that purpose. And it would be even harder because she's not on a stage in front of an audience. She's just in front of a camera. So she doesn't have anybody at all to play off of. So she's playing off of herself. So it's hard to keep that energy going like she does. But she does an amazing job at keeping her energy levels up and making sure she's not being boring and making sure her face is always expressing what she's feeling. Because without the facial expressions, you wouldn't be able to understand what was going on inside of her head. Now, the doll isn't terrifying to look at. It's not like Chucky. It's not like this scary little doll that has a knife or something.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
It's the plainness of the doll and how it just stares at you. That is what makes it terrifying all in the same. Just because it's this little doll. It's very, very pale, and it's got these big brown eyes that just stare at you, and it has a nice little haircut, just some plain brown hair, just a typical haircut that you would see a little boy in, and it's normally dressed in like a little suit and tie outfit, unless it's in his pajamas. Then he has like a button-down sleeper shirt with some pants. But it's very, very plain. It's not like Chucky or any of those things at all. You think Greta's kind of losing her mind throughout the film just because she sees things that aren't there or you think aren't there. You're never quite sure if she's actually losing her mind or not until the end. Now, with that being said, it kind of almost makes you feel like you're losing your mind too, because you're with Greta on this. Like at one point, without giving anything away in the movie, there's just this one particular scene that's not really meaningful at all. All of her clothes go missing. She can't find her clothes at all. And then she like goes into the other room. And then when she comes back, all of her clothes are there again. So you're sitting there and you're wondering like, what's going on? Is she crazy? Like, am I losing my mind? Or it plays tricks on you. And it's interesting how you can feel what she's going through just by her portrayal of the character. Now, the jump scares, the movie does do a lot of jump scares just because it is just, for the most part, Lauren as Greta in the movie. So whenever they do the jump scares, they did the jump scares right. They had the eerie music playing, and then you expected it to come. And then it didn't come. But right after your anticipation stopped, that's when it would happen. Once you were like, oh, well, there's going to be a jump scare right here, and then nothing happened, and then boom, and it scares you. It's like the perfect jump scare. They use it several times throughout the movie. The little doll, his name is Brahms in the movie. Now, his parents, they're parting in the movie. They go on holiday, and that's why they need this nanny to look after Brahms so they can go on holiday. And when they part with Greta, they're like so eager to get out of the house. It's not like most parents where they're like hugging their kids and stuff and they don't want to leave and they're like, maybe we should just stay and stuff like that, like normal parents would do. They're like super eager to get out of this house and away from Brahms. It's kind of freaky. And then they're almost upset at the same time, but not because they're leaving Brahms. It seems like they're more upset that they're leaving Greta. And the mom even apologizes right before she leaves, which is one of my quotes that I have playing throughout this podcast. So the parents parting is just super, super sketchy. Now, the ending of the movie is one that you will never forget. Now, I can't spoil anything for you, so this is going to be kind of difficult to talk about because the ending is really what makes this movie. The last, 30 minutes or so of the movie makes the entire movie worthwhile because it's just something that you didn't see coming. You didn't see it coming at all. And it gave me the heebie-jeebies almost. Like, it was creepy. And I don't normally get creeped out by horror movies. Like, I'm a huge horror movie fan. Obviously, I'm doing a podcast on horror movies, but I'm a huge fan of them, but most of the time they don't freak me out. I had a couple when I was little that freaked me out, like Signs creeped me out, but I was also 6 when I first watched that. So, I mean, that's kind of scary for a little 6-year-old. Halloween creeped me out when I was little too. And now, as you heard in my last podcast, I don't even like that movie. But this movie, creeps me out as an adult. So it has to be kind of creepy if it creeps adults out, especially ones that aren't easily scared. But you have to trust me when I say I don't get scared easily. And this one creeped me out. So the other quotes that I used throughout the podcast, I used the quote, You will be good to him, won't you? That's the mom, Brahms's mom, and she's making sure that Greta's going to follow this strict rule list that she has for him. Like, for instance, he gets up at 7 o'clock sharp and he eats breakfast, and she has to read to him for like an hour or so, and she has all of these rules that she's supposed to strictly follow. And so she's making sure that Greta will be good to her son. As I said before, I do use the "I'm sorry" line, and that's because of how weird and kind of sketchy the parents' parting is. Like, it won't make sense until you watch the movie why they're like that. But once you're watching the movie and you're about, I'd say, a little bit more than halfway through, it makes sense as to why they're happy to go and why they would apologize to her. I do use a couple other quotes throughout this podcast, but I'm not going to explain why. Instead, I'm going to have you guys watch the movie. And once you watch the movie, you'll understand exactly why I chose those quotes. So, unlike my last podcast, and unlike what the critics said, go and watch The Boy. It's really good. And like I said before, it's not your typical, oh, the doll is possessed movie. It's got an ending that you'll never forget. Like, I can't get over how good the ending was. Like, that was the whole, like, basically the whole reason why I love this movie so much. So go ahead and go watch it. Thanks for listening to Scream Baby Scream. Tune in next time when I review the 1996 classic horror film, Scream.